Welcome everyone. We're all here for our Leap Venture Studio info session today. Really excited that applications open today. I'm sure you've all seen the announcements on social media and in the Slack channel. I'm going to kick it off by doing a few introductions. So if you haven't met me before, my name is Isabel. I'm our program manager for our LEAP programs at Michelson Found Animals, which is one of the partners in our LEAP programs, which we'll introduce a little bit later. I'm going to kick it over to Dylan to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Dylan Boyd. This is my fifth LEAP cohort with the LEAP team. I'm with Rda Ventures. I'm based out of Portland, Oregon. And we're very excited about this to work. This will cross us over 30 plus founders we've worked with in the LEAP studio. So it's very exciting.
Awesome. And Rachel, do you want to chime in really quick?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Sheppard. I'm the Director of Ventures here at Mars Petcare, and I'm new to the LEAP team. I've been with Mars Petcare a couple of months, and I'm very excited. This will be my first LEAP cohort, studio cohort that I'll be a part of. My background is in veterinary medicine as well as early stage startups. So nice to meet everybody. Thank you.
Awesome. And then Shirley, do you want to quickly introduce yourself as well?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Shirley, and I'm one of the summer interns for LEAP. Very nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. So that is the LEAP team here. We're excited to share more about our programs today. Unfortunately, this is a larger call, so we won't have as much time to meet all of you, but really excited that you joined us here today to learn more about the program. So this will be about, I'd say, a 20 to 30 minute presentation. Feel free throughout the presentation to put any questions you have in the chat. And I can ask Shirley to chime in if we have any questions we should address in the moment. We'll also definitely have time at the end to go through some Q&A. We ask that you please remain on mute the entire time. We have a big group joining. And so instead of taking yourself off mute to have questions, just put it in the chat window for now. This session is also being recorded. We want to make sure anyone that wasn't able to join today can learn more about the program. So this will go up on our YouTube channel later today. If you want to share with your co-founders or anyone else from your team or any other pet care startup founders you know that are interested in the program. We are also hosting 2 more information sessions that are identical to this one on September 30th and October 11th to share more information. And so if you want to share those invites as well, that would be great. So to kick it off super quickly, if you haven't heard of LEAP before, I just want to give a big overview. We were started about 4 years ago, seeing the emergence of companies in the pet care space, especially from startups, and not many opportunities for investment or programs to learn more and connect. So we are one of the first programs designed to ignite meaningful growth across the entire pet care startup ecosystem. LEAP is a partnership between Michelson Found Animals, where I work, and Kinship, where Rachel works, which is a division of Mars Petcare. Through LEAP, we have 2 programs. The first is our LEAP Venture Academy, which is free programming year-round for any pet care startup founder. This includes webinars, workshops. We liked to meet up in person at conferences. Hopefully we'll get to do that again someday soon. We've done pitch competitions. We also have a program called our boot camp that's focused on founders who identify as female and or as a person of color. We're going to have our 3rd boot camp next week. So those applications already closed, but we'll be announcing the 15 companies participating in that program next week. In addition to that, just access to mentors, advisors, funding. All of us here that introduced ourselves are always available to support in any way you can, answer questions, hopefully build some connections within the pet care space. The second program that we're all here to talk about today is our LEAP Venture Studio. We do 1 cohort per year of 6 to 8 companies. The next one is spring 2022, and we'll get more into the details of that shortly. So like I mentioned, LEAP is a partnership between Michelson Found Animals and Mars Petcare. I'm going to introduce Michelson Found Animals first briefly. We are an animal welfare nonprofit based in Los Angeles. We operate a wide range of programs. We have social enterprises like our shelter location, and we formerly had a national microchip registry. We make philanthropic investments, both through grant making as well as through our LEAP program. And then we also have strategic initiatives across a variety of different cause areas. A few include pet inclusive housing, pets and homelessness, and also creating pipelines into the pet industry through grooming and training, workforce development programs. These are just a few quick stats about our organization and the impact we've had already. Through our grant making, we've given away a significant amount of money. We had the first free national pet microchip registry. We've had a significant amount of adoptions through our shelter locations in Los Angeles. We've given a lot of money as well to spay and neuter and related programs. And we've also given out 30 scientific research project grants working on a variety of scientific developments related to animal welfare. So that's Michelson Found Animals in a quick nutshell. I'm going to pass it over to Rachel now to talk about Mars.
Hi, everybody. So Mars Petcare, you might have heard of us. And if you haven't heard of us in our global presence, you may have heard of one of our many brands, which includes Pedigree, Iams, Royal Canin, Banfield, and BCA, to name a few. We have major global brands around the world that are heavily invested in making sure that we are creating a better world for pets. And our biggest goal is to partner with you and bring some of these resources to the studio program to support the next iteration of pet care focused startups. So excited to bring these resources together to support.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I'm going to talk super briefly about our Leap Venture Academy a little bit more. As you all know, as pet care entrepreneurs, there's a lot of different areas of support that you need, from mentorship to networking to access to capital. So Leap, really, this is the sort of the areas that we can help right now through our Leap Venture Academy. We're especially focused on the idea to early revenue stage from the programs I mentioned before, like our webinars, pitch competitions, and boot camps. The Leap Venture Studio is really focused on this area from early revenue to repeating revenue. We typically enter companies when they're looking at a seed to Series A funding round. Once you get beyond that, we do our best to help you within the ecosystem and find other opportunities for funding and for additional mentorship and support. This graphic is also on our website if you have more questions or want to learn more. But like I mentioned, the Leap Venture Academy is pre-accelerator and community building activities. Events are held year round, so we'll be announcing more later this year and definitely in 2022 to find additional ways to always support pet care entrepreneurs at every stage. So now we'll go into our Leap Venture Studio. So like we mentioned before, the Leap Venture Studio was the first startup-centric accelerator program specifically for the pet care industry. It's a 12 to 13-week program. We had our first cohort in 2018. Now we are so happy to say that we've had 4 cohorts of 27 total companies, really amazing portfolio that we'll go into a little bit later in this presentation. And in addition to the existing partnership between Michelson Found Animals and Mars Petcare, we also have Rda Ventures, where Dylan works joined for our Leap Venture Studio programs. So the next program we'll be talking about today is from February to May of 2022. As of now, it'll be a hybrid in-person and virtual program. Obviously, everything in the world right now is COVID pending, but we hope to have it be a hybrid program by next spring, and it's open to startups from all over the world. So before we get into more details, I want to make sure Dylan has a chance to also introduce Rda Ventures.
Hi, a few of you I've met before. Real quick, so Rda Ventures is the investment and venture arm of Interpublic Group. Interpublic Group is a publicly traded company. We own about 100 large agencies, RGA being one of those. We operate to not only co-invest with folks like Isabel and Rachel and their organizations, but we try to co-invest in areas in which we believe there is a large growth opportunity, like most venture investors. We are, though, a corporate investor, meaning we're balance sheet investors. So we don't have, LPs that are backing us. It's actually our own money that we're putting behind every investment that we make, which is very different from a lot of other VC that you might follow out there in the world. We build a purpose-driven team for every company that we co-invest with. So when we find someone in Leap, Oh, sorry. Put on.
No, I'm not on video.
There we go. So when we find the companies that we invest in, we bring in a services team. So we bring in our practice leaders from design, from communications, from business, from strategy. And with every founder that we've worked with to date in Leap, we do a teardown. We find out where the opportunities and the gaps are and what we could solve for. We then build a purpose-driven team out of that to take on some of the outcomes of those projects. So could be a redesign of a mobile app. It could be a go-to-market strategy. It could be a pricing exercise. Could be, overall communication strategy. Something that we do for every company as part of the LEAP program, no matter what. The other outcome of that is we bring in Dave Isaacs. Dave Isaacs is our global presentations lead. He builds keynote decks for the CEO of Nike. He's like kind of the ace in the hole for us. But the ace in the hole for us is he's built 140 decks in the companies that RGA has invested in over the last few years. So every founder we've invested in, he's helped them reformat a very unique deck that helps them tell the story in a clear, concise way that they can use for investors, that they can use in keynotes on stages, that they can use for partner discussions, that they can even use for onboarding new employees as they grow their team. So I don't know, to me, that in itself is worth the weight of the time in Leap Ventures, right? To clearly tell the story of the company and the brand you're building in a flexible and robust way. But that's where we get in. The other parts of our group is, our network. We've worked with, in RGA, 250 major brands behind the scenes, but with, thousands when we look across Interpublic. And with our network, not only in the investment space, but the brand and the corporate space, we're really good at opening up doors. And I think we're really open to open those doors for the founders that we back and invest in. So as we identify those things, instead of you hunting down the right person at a Walmart or a Target or a Amazon, we probably know who they are, who to call. And, and that saves you months and months of time and a lot of dead ends. So hopefully we can be helpful as RGA Ventures.
Great. Thank you, Dylan. So now definitely we always get this question, but why join the Leap Venture Studio and why apply? I think obviously we're a little biased, but we have a lot of reasons why. You receive up to $200K in seed funding as part of joining the program. Like Dylan mentioned, there's an amazing services package with the RGA team of incredible experts and designers that really dive in deep into your company and help support you in the ways that you need it most. Michelson Found Animals and Kinship and Mars Petcare are two leaders in the pet care industry, both from the animal welfare side, and then Mars from nutrition and food and veterinary care and much, much more. So you get access to our teams and mentorship and our extended network, which I think is a very unique aspect of this accelerator program. We also bring mentors from outside our organizations and from our general LEAP community with deep pet care experience and outside of pet care to provide support and mentorship. I think the cohort bonds that are built through the program are really unique as well. We purposely keep the programs to 6 to 8 companies, so you really get to know your fellow founders, build relationships with them. We've seen many of these companies go on to partner on things together, which is seen, and the wider portfolio of companies has really built an incredible bond. The accelerator program is very personalized to your specific company. We, through the application process and through the onboarding process, make sure we know exactly what you're working on now and what you need the most support with over the next 3 months, 6 months, and year. There's numerous in-kind services and discounts through speakers that we bring in that can offer support to your company. And Dylan, I want to make sure if you want to chime in here too and add anything else about what's unique about our program.
I mean, you, Rachel, me. I think the biggest thing, that I think the founders have, I think Isabel said the connections between the collaboration points between all the different companies. I even look at, people that are in the food space, right? As an example, you might think, everyone's fighting for a share of the wallet, but they've probably been their best supporters and network operators. Like, how do I get into this retail chain? How do I work with a co-packer? How do I find a packaging supplier? Like, everyone's in here for the win. And so like, I think we find a lot of benefit from that. That to me is so instrumental in building these, not only in cohort, but across cohorts. And I think, the other side, the in-kind services and discounts we offer, you can get a lot of these, right? Whether it's from Amazon or Shopify or other folks we have out there. But we can find some really unique ones, given the industry itself. I think that never gets really promoted enough. I mean, Rachel from the Mars team, the tens of thousands of excerpts across the globe that we have access to. I mean, we have taken some founders into facilities in the Midwest to go do testing in all sorts of ways, to rework formulations of product. We have opened up, kind of from a research and a veterinary standpoint, our networks of experts inside of Banfield and BCA and Blue Pearl, which have helped these founders. And you're all, as your entrepreneurs starting your own company, everyone's like, someone's going to steal my idea. Someone's going to, they're not. They're not. I rest assured, like, that other benefit of Leap is this is a really good nest of trust between all of these different partners in here. Mars is not going to steal your idea. They're too big. This is like, if they wanted to do it, they would have done it, and it would have taken them 7 to 10 years. Just saying. So you can move faster and more nimble than anyone else out here. So don't be worried about those things. I think it's that trust. I mean, even from Rachel, Guillaume, he's joined us globally. The head of global innovation. Like, we've got the connections across the org. So that superpower is very different than any other group I've worked with.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. So quickly, I'll go through the timeline for the application process. So today, September 15th, our applications opened. They're open until October 17th. So you have about 4 weeks to work on it. I always recommend, now I'll give a few tips. We also have a blog post with more tips for the application, but start working on it today. Open a Google Doc or a Word document and start typing out your answers to the application questions. It's a little bit longer, and it's good to think about those questions for a little bit of time. Keep it on a separate document, and then whenever you're ready to submit, you can do that then. If you have questions through the process, Rachel, Dylan, and I are here to answer those. We're all available on Slack, and I'll share my email at the end as well. So after the applications close, we select the top 30 companies to pitch to a select panel of judges. And then all of the application decisions are released by early to mid-December. And then our next program will begin on February 7th, 2022, and our demo day will be May 5th of next year. And all of this information, as well as on our website, and this recording obviously will be on YouTube if you miss any of the dates and have additional questions. A little bit about what the 3 months looks like. We get a lot of questions from potential applicants about the time commitment and what it looks like week to week. So the first month, generally, I'd say is the most time intensive as we get to know your company and you work on the RGA services project. So I'd say it's about 30 hours per week, probably a little bit less than that for the first month. If we're in person, it's obviously a little bit more intensive. That would be for the first 2 weeks. Virtually, it's about 20 to 30 hours per week. And for that first month, we're really working on getting to know your company, developing a specific learning plan, connecting you with mentors and with your fellow cohort companies. And then you meet with each of the partners. So with Michelson Found Animals, with Mars, and with RGA, to see how each of the partners can best benefit you over the course of the program and after the program. The second month is about 10 hours per week. The regular programming is we'll have weekly webinars, and you'll be presenting to your peers in the cohort on areas of expertise that you have. You'll continue to work with mentors on key issues. You'll be working on your services project with Rda Ventures. And then we always have something called mentor office hours, where you get to meet one-on-one with mentors over a 30-minute meeting to ask questions and to build a relationship. For that third month, those weekly activities will continue, but after the services project ends with Rda Ventures, you actually work on developing your pitch deck and your presentation for demo day. Dave Isaacs, who Dylan mentioned before, is who you'd work with super closely. He does an phenomenal job on helping you redo or improve your deck and to practice your pitch in time for demo day at the beginning of May. And then we plan for how do we continue to support you after the program. These 3 months are the most intensive of our relationship, but it's just the beginning. And there's a lot of ways then that we brainstorm how we'll continue to communicate, what projects we'll keep helping you with, and how to connect you with all of our organizations in a larger way. Dylan, do you want to add anything here about any of the activities or the time commitment?
I just leave you, this is really a guideline, right? When you look at this, like from the side, we have founders that really want to dig in even more and go down some other paths. And so it's really up to you. Like, this is kind of a minimum. We've seen that first month just is a commitment. And we know you're all building and possibly running other companies already at this time. And so I think for you, just know that's the commitment we're looking for, to have the most positive impact of your time with us. I've seen that those that put a little more in actually get a little more out, as I think you probably all expect. So just consider it for that. The same thing as in flexibility, as we're working, whether it's in an in-person or a hybrid remote relationship, we're going to all be in different time zones at times, right? Different parts of the globe sometimes. So we're going to be flexible. We're going to try to coordinate the main things around the buckets of time that work for everyone. Isabel's been phenomenal learning time zones the last 2 years and helping to coordinate that, but we'll be flexible. At the same point in time, I'll speak just for me. I will get on the phone very early in the morning and very late at night with founders we work with to make sure that they're getting what they need. And if there are fires to help put out or things to help solve that require immediate help, I know a lot of us will do the same. So you get as much out of what you put in.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And now we're going to give you just a quick snapshot of the 4 cohorts that have already gone through our program. More descriptions and links to the websites are on our website, so I won't spend too much time going through this. This was our first cohort in 2018. Some really amazing companies. Lacuna Diagnostics was acquired recently last year. Cohort 2, again, was 6 companies. Our cohort 3 program was 7 companies. Pet Hospice was our second acquisition from our portfolio. And then this past year, our entirely virtual program, really amazing group of 8 companies. So definitely, check them out, learn more. A big piece of advice we have is if you're, curious more about the program, I think the best people to go to, in addition to us on this call today, is the founders themselves. So if you know any of these founders of these companies, or you want to build relationships with them and learn more about what it looks like to become, part of the Leap Venture Studio community, I think they also are the best resource to learn more. So another big question we get is, who are we looking for? What types of companies do we want? What types of founders do we want to accept into this program? So I'll go through the bullet points here, but there's a lot of responses to this, and I'll make sure that Rachel and Dylan have time to chime in as well. But we are looking for qualified candidates that have at least a minimum viable product. We would like to see that your startups have achieved or are beginning to achieve customer traction. There's no hard or fast rule on pre-launch versus if you've already launched, but I think traction in some ways is really important to us. We are open to tech-enabled companies at a variety of stages, so from pre-seed to Series A. We also look at a variety of business models, including B2B and B2C. I'm going to talk about this point a little bit later too, but we do like to see a large enough team that allows the founder to focus on the LEAP projects. As you've seen from those 3 months, it is a very intensive program. We want to make sure you can run your program, you can keep living your life, and you can really dedicate yourself to the Leap Venture Studio. And for that to work best, we do recommend that you have a larger team and it's not just a solo founder. This isn't true across the board. We have accepted solo founders in the past, but they've usually had contractors, full-time employees, or support that allowed the company to keep running so that they could focus and really dive deep into this program. Another point is we are really, really looking for cat-focused startups. All of you are in the pet care industry, so a lot of the focus gets put on dogs, and we think cats need a lot more focus on products and services developed specifically for them. So we wanted to call that out today, that if you are a cat-focused startup, we'd love to get to know you better. If you know other cat-focused startups, please send them to us. We definitely know that through our portfolio, we have not given enough attention to cats. And then the last point is we at this time cannot accept companies that are focused on CBD or have CBD in their product lines. If you have more questions about that, we're happy to answer that later. Or if you want to ask specifically to your company, we're happy to address that one-on-one as well. And then really quickly from a high level, for the entrepreneurs, we're really looking for motivation and commitment, for passion, for great communication skills and coachability. A lot of this program is meeting with mentors, working with the RGA teams, and getting constructive feedback. We want to make sure that you're open to making changes, to growing with us, to learning from this program. And then generally, as far as the companies, we're looking for potential for growth and profit. We're looking for, a unique product or service that you're building. We really want to make sure you're making an impact in pet care and animal welfare. That's a huge focus from all of our partners. And then finally, we really have a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that goes not just for the founding team, but who you hire, how your product or service was designed, how you view your customer base, how you're looking at your potential to grow. So now, Dylan, Rachel, please chime in as well.
And maybe people are going to have these questions, but just to be clear, we look across the 27 companies we funded in the past. You're like, oh, there's a lot of pet food companies. There's treat companies. Like, is that not competition to me? Or there's alternative protein companies. There's vegan dog food companies. Look, there's a lot of people and a lot of pets on the planet. I think you all know this, which is a big opportunity. Meaning that we believe, I believe, I wouldn't even speak for anyone else. I believe there's, 15 to 20, $100 million next pet food companies in the US alone, not even looking at it from a global standpoint. There's enough money in pet care, the way it's growing and changing right now, and the way that consumers are humanizing their pets, and the way the impact of our environment that we need to solve for in the pet space. That it opens up the door to a lot of these. So while we do love that space because we know it really, really well, we're also very open to the other side of it in heavy tech, software, AI, machine learning, and diagnostic companies. Like, don't just think of Mars and the studio as something that's around pets and pet food. It's wide open. We'd love you to bring ideas to us that we haven't even thought of. I think that in there, you might say, oh, there's a competitive investor in so-and-so. We're really like Switzerland, to be honest. I'm sure people say this to you, but we really treat every founder as their own. And yeah, we're going to make multiple bets in a few categories, because that's really what we should be doing. I think the idea of this is a better world for pets and humans and pets. And if we don't make more bets in this space, we're really not encouraging that growth and that actually change in the industry. So, if there is, we get to a finalist role with you and we talk to somebody and we're talking to two of you that think you're exactly the same. No one's exactly the same, just to be honest. Everyone has a little bit of a difference between them and why, but we'll actually discuss that with you and say, hey, I just want you to be really clear. We're looking at companies, two in this space are looking at Brussels sprouts as the next new superfood for cats. You're both doing that. So I'm just making stuff up. And so we'll talk about that and just make sure you have a comfort level with it, right? You don't have to do this in the end. But I would highly encourage you not to miss the opportunity to do so. That's kind of where I would leave it. That comes up a lot, will they take my idea? Is somebody else going to be doing someone similar to me? Like, we wouldn't, as business people, we wouldn't be making these decisions if we really thought that was going to be a problem.
I would just add, and that was great points, Dylan. And I'm excited about the Brussels sprouts solutions as well.
It's a big market.
I'm a big fan of Brussels sprouts. But in all seriousness, I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on it from a tactical standpoint. As you're applying to LEAP, one of your biggest assets and your potentially greatest downfalls is not clearly communicating your business model. That is something that we look at pretty heavily, and that's something that we need to be able to thoroughly understand from the application itself or from your pitch deck, and ideally from both. So I would just put that out there is if you're going to think about, as you go ahead and fill out this application, thinking about where to put your efforts most, it would be on making sure that your business model is incredibly clear, and concise. And that's something that I would just give as a helpful piece of information.
I can really narrow it down to there's two business models right now in the world. There's either you sell things to people or people to things. So build from there, right? There really is only two ways of making these money, but the complexity I think Rachel talks about is, well, we're building at this, and we're discounting the model at this, our cost per acquisition, we anticipate to be X, our cost of production, that whole model, we need to understand that one, how it works, right? And even if you don't have it solved yet, we actually want to see how you think about it. So we know how to work with you on fine tuning that, or where, hey, there's an opportunity. Rachel and Isabel know how to fix this. So this is definitely one we can lean in with. I mean, we roll up the sleeves and try to help overcome these problems, and find the opportunities inside of the models that we know through, years of being in this space that we can assist with. Doesn't have to be perfect. We just know how you think about it.
Great. So another question we get a lot also is, what stage do we accept? And so instead of answering that directly, we're going to give you 3 different examples of companies that we have accepted into the program to show you that there really isn't a direct answer, but it is a lot about distinguishing yourself. And I think exactly what Rachel said, a lot of that is through your business model. So I'll quickly go through. These are 3 anonymous companies that we've accepted in the past. Company A was pre-launch, so they did not have a product in market yet. They did not have funding, but they had a team of strong co-founders that knew what they were doing, that had the idea, that were close to production. A lot of this was affected by COVID. Maybe they, in a normal world, would have been in product or in market already. But what really set them apart was their focus on sustainability and the partners that they had that allowed them to be a sustainable company, and that it was science-backed. And that they had a team of mentors and advisors that had developed the product using science and really focused and developed a great product that they were ready to put in market, but needed our help to get there. So that's company A. Company B was early revenue. So they were already in market. They had $800K in funding. They had 3 co-founders and 8 full-time employees. And what really distinguished them is that they had millions of downloads and a high number of monthly active users. So here you can see that even though they're already in market and had fundraised, what really set them apart, in addition to their team and having a team that could participate in the program, was the traction they already had. And then company C, all 3 of these are unique, but company C actually had repeating revenue. The company had been established for quite a few years, but they'd never taken on funding, and it was still a solo founder. But what really allowed us to know the solo founder could still be successful in the program is that they had 15 part-time staff that could continue to run the operations while they participated in the studio program. So I think this gives you a snapshot that we really aren't looking for any specific companies, but the things that set you apart are really important. If you have more questions about stage specifically to you one-on-one, please let us know individually, and we'll be happy to answer those questions as well. But I think my final response is, if you're not sure if you're ready or not, or if this is a perfect program for you, if the application isn't too much a time suck away from operating your company, if it's a good practice to sort of evaluate what stage you're at, we will give you personalized feedback on your application, anyone that applies. And I think that personalized feedback and the chance to get in front of a new panel of judges is always worth it, even if you don't end up making it through the entire process. So even if you're not sure about the stage, I do recommend applying, because you will get feedback and you will get in front of people that will want to learn more about your company. And I'm happy to talk about that more offline as well. Great. So the last slide before we get more into Q&A is just a few common problems and errors that we want to call out today, just because we see it so often and we want to help you all avoid that on your applications. Please answer all the questions, and we hate to see an incomplete application. If you don't have an answer or you don't know the best way, totally fine to say, I'm actually still figuring this out. This is what I'm thinking right now, but this is an area I need support on. That is a totally valid answer, but don't leave it blank. We want to learn more about you still. The second thing is the deck should be a maximum of 15 slides. A lot of the judges that go through this application process love focusing on the deck first and then reading through the rest of your application. But if that deck is 25 to 30 slides, they're going to have trouble getting through all that information. So definitely keep it concise. The second bullet point is something that Rachel already touched upon, but definitely have a clear business model, make it clear to all of us who are reading through it, easily understood, and make sure that your logic is consistent throughout the application. We don't want to see, contradicting answers, because then it'll just lead to additional confusion about what you're building.
Go talk to people that aren't building the company with you and read them at your answers out loud, or present them your deck. I just, someone with zero understanding, go say, here's what I'm going to talk about, and see if they get it. If they can follow it, that logic might be good. But do take that. Don't just look at your deck 1,000 times like you all have yourselves. Go out and get someone else that isn't connected to you in a business way to give you some feedback on it. I used to actually make founders go stand on a 5-gallon bucket in the middle of Pioneer Courthouse Square in downtown Portland. And they had to give their presentation, their pitch over and over again until 10 people stopped and paid attention to what they were saying. And it was just all verbal. There were no slides. They just had to keep giving. So as soon as I get a crowd of people around, I've done that in the New York subways before too. And I think that's part of it, is just how would you tell a stranger about the company you're building and how the model worked?
That's a great exercise.
Yeah, it's quite embarrassing the first few times, but it's a lot of fun.
Amazing. So the third bullet point to make sure you focus on is if you have a lack of understanding of the stage that you're at right now, your value proposition, or your customer base. I think those are 3 areas where sometimes we see that the founder doesn't fully understand these areas yet, or has overinflated the value proposition, or there is inconsistent logic, or it hasn't really been thought through yet. Again, like we said, you're still figuring these things out as you build and grow, so it's no definitive answer, but make sure that you really connect these things together through your program, through your application, and that it's connected to your business model, and there is consistent logic through all of this. The fourth bullet point is a failure to identify competition or lack of a competitive advantage. A lot of the time people say, no one's building what I'm building and I have no competitors. That's not true. Even if you don't have someone who's an identical competitor, or innovating the exact same way, there's always a competitive aspect. The pet industry is huge and it's growing and it's booming, which is awesome. And it's great to have competitors. So we love to see that.
Yeah, even if you're replacing something that exists in a different thing, it's a ball throwing machine. I mean, someone else is already fighting for that wallet in some other way. So there's always competition for the dollar and the consumer.
Definitely. And then the last common problem or error that we see is a founder underestimating the effort or resources required to participate in this program. We know the amount of time it takes to be in this program. We know, what types of founders usually get the most out of this. We want to make sure when you're applying, you understand that too. How you'd be able to split up your time, which of the co-founders would be participating, can your company still run with you being in this program? I think that's a really important thing to just ask yourself at this time. If this year isn't the best time, we're hosting this program every year. So, we're happy to answer more questions if you're questioning whether this is the best time to apply. So quickly before we go through the Q&A, I just want to introduce a little bit more of the team that's not on the call with us today. For Michelson Found Animals, we have our CEO, Brett Yates, and our managing director of our Michelson Impact Ventures, along with myself, that participates and, helps you and supports you throughout the program. From Mars Petcare, in addition to Rachel, Guillaume, who Dylan mentioned earlier, is the global strategy and venture VP based in Europe from Mars Petcare. And then Ben Jacobs joins as an advisor. And then from the RGA side, Dylan obviously introduced himself, and Dave Isaacs, and then Jonathan Bradley, who's a partner at RGA that also joins for our program. Super quickly.
Jonathan's like the ringmaster, and I'm like the bear that rides the unicorn around the center. So it's just a good way to think about it.
Perfect. And then quickly, and just to make sure that you get updates throughout the application process, make sure you're following us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, you're on our Leap Slack channel, and that you're signed up for our monthly newsletter. Those are the best ways to get updates. Shirley, if you want to put the Slack channel invite in the chat, that would be awesome too. So anyone that's not already on it can answer those or can join today. So thank you so much for listening to this portion of the presentation. I know it's a ton of information and it was a lot of me talking, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. If you have questions and want to put them in the chat first, then we can pick people to go off mute and make sure we have time to answer everything. And it looks like we already got one question, so I'll just read it out loud. Let's see, question about whether you should apply. Yeah, I think no matter who the company is, no matter what you're building, I think applying is a great step. Like I mentioned before, you'll get personalized feedback on your application. You'll get to meet with us. You'll get in front of a new panel of judges. So yes, I think you should definitely apply.
Yeah, and the trend that you're actually talking about is, right, assembling people to have buying discounts based upon total group out there. And we've seen a lot of this, the Costco, the membership model, and these types of things. Boxed, others were starting to really take off in the wholesale side of things. So it's definitely an opportunity in the space.
Great. Any other questions? Feel free to put it into the chat.
Great. So we'll expect 37 applications at the end of the day. This is great. No one has questions. We're just going to get it done. Say that you had a question on how many judges. There are, between us, I think we have a prime, is it 6, 7 of us, Isabel?
We have about 8 team members that will go through the written applications from all 3 of our organizations. And then for the live pitches, we invite a larger group, both from our organizations and outside from our portfolio, to give a real diverse perspective of opinions, both from experience and from background, and looking at the companies holistically.
And then maybe Rachel on the cancer therapeutics question from Nuno.
Yeah, happy to answer that. So that is kind of in a it depends sort of category. And by that, I mean, if we're talking about a full FDA trial type situation, that's probably something where we're not going to be able to help as much through the studio specifically. But if there are some solutions I've seen in the therapeutic space that are not as much about, going into an FDA trial, but are sort of, improving pet health from, a therapeutics perspective. And so that might be something that we talk about. And, it would be great to learn a little bit more about your company to see if it would be a good fit.
Yeah, I think just to echo science, we've looked at a lot of amazing companies, and God, I would have loved to really got involved with quite a few of them. It's really hard to make an impact in 90 days over a company that's got a 5 to 7 year, roadmap to certification in a FDA or countrywide or multiple countrywide process. And that makes it difficult for us, not impossible, but because of science, we have to also work really well with Mars and their large global teams of researchers to make sure that everything checks out. You think of, Mars is very scientifically based in everything they do. And it's it's a requirement of many of the things we get into. We make sure that even from a nutrition standpoint, everything checks out. So if you think about, we get the therapeutics and cancer and other diseases, even more important that we make sure those things check out. Max, purely technical background directly and help with answering the questions in the deck. Yeah, for sure. Right? Phone a friend, whatever it takes out there to get somebody to doing that. Or, at some point in time, if we can, I can jump on as well, and I can't answer the questions for you, only you can, but I can give you maybe some context to help form what your answers could be based upon what you know. So I will as well hold open office hours. Rachel might as well over the next few weeks, that we can help go through these questions as well. If you get caught up on some, it's something that I love to do. So we'll make sure we're available to do that.
Great, Dylan. I'll pass this question to you, but it was asked if we are a direct competitor of a portfolio company of yours. Do you have any suggestions for applying or for the process?
I mean, when you mean direct, you mean that you're just going and just poaching every single one of their clients behind the scenes? I mean, it's really hard. I mean, I look at, Wild Earth and Pet Plate, right? They're direct competitors to feeding your dog, right? But they're totally different types of companies. I look at Jimny's, right, in the insect-based space. Do we think there's room for 2 more or 3 more insect-based, right, alternative protein companies? For sure. Do we think there's room for another company like Wild Earth that's doing a manufactured, right, farmed protein like that? Of course there is. So with that, when you think about direct competitor portfolio company, like, I mean, unless you're going and chopping the legs out from under them to kill somebody off, I don't think there's really anyone that there's not room for out here in this space.
I would add too that it's important to consider where you're competing as well, right? So if you're competing in a completely different market, that's something that's of interest in most cases, right? Because not every market is the same around the world, and I know we have a somewhat global audience today. So I would consider that as a value proposition and part of your competitive strategy as well.
Great. Any other questions on anything?
Good. So we'll have additional office hours coming up, and Isabel will promote those. Again, in the Slack channel, I'm not really the best at Slack, I'll be honest. It's just too many Slack channels for me and too different many leaps. One of many that I'm in groups, but I would love as well to find more time. There's the upcoming events that Isabel will publish here, as well as through social. But again, you can Slack with me and I can try to find time. Next week's going to be impossible for me personally. I'll be traveling next week, but the week after, I most likely will have time that'll open up.
Great. Thanks, Dylan. Yeah, so you can reach out. Rachel and I are both on the Slack channel. I also put our LEAP email that all 3 of us can see. So if you have any questions and you want to direct it or you're not sure who's the best person to answer, you can send it to that email. I put our upcoming events, like we mentioned, we have 2 more information sessions. If we do any more office hours or things like that, it'll go up there as well. But thank you all so much for joining today and for listening. We are happy to answer more questions. Like we mentioned, this is open from now until October 17th. So there's plenty of time to work on your application. So again, thanks. And we'll probably talking with a lot of you soon.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.